The unthinkable has happened, a moment many feared, many predicted, but few truly believed would come to pass. The fragile peace that tenuously held the world together has been shattered. The news is breaking across every platform, every screen, every corner of the globe. Tonight, the world holds its breath. A collective intake of air, a shared moment of anxiety and uncertainty. Every nation, every city, every household is glued to the unfolding events, aware that the consequences could be catastrophic and far-reaching. The digital age amplifies the tension, with information and misinformation spreading like wildfire. As the United States launches devastating airstrikes, precision-guided munitions rain down from the sky, targeting key strategic locations. The night sky is illuminated by flashes of explosions, a stark and terrifying display of military might. The decision to initiate this strike was not taken lightly, but the rationale behind it is now being debated and dissected across the world. Against Iran's most sensitive nuclear facilities. Facilities that have long been a source of international concern and contention. The strikes are intended to cripple Iran's nuclear ambitions, but the potential for escalation is immense. The world watches with bated breath, wondering what the next move will be. Explosions in the Iranian desert, a desolate landscape transformed into a scene of destruction. The echoes of the blasts reverberate across the region, carrying with them the weight of geopolitical consequences. The aftermath will be analyzed for weeks, months, even years to come. Have sent shockwaves across the globe. Financial markets plummet, investors panic, and the global economy teeters on the brink. World leaders scramble to convene emergency meetings, desperately seeking a path to de-escalation. The international community is thrown into turmoil as alliances are tested and diplomatic channels are strained to their breaking point. We are now in uncharted territory. The old rules no longer apply. The established order is crumbling, the future is uncertain, and the stakes are higher than ever before. Military strategists are working around the clock, wargaming every possible scenario. The White House calls it a preemptive defensive strike, a necessary measure to protect American interests and prevent further escalation. The administration defends its actions, citing intelligence reports and imminent threats. Tehran calls it an act of war, a blatant violation of international law and a direct assault on Iranian sovereignty. The Iranian government condemns the strikes in the strongest possible terms, accusing the United States of aggression and destabilization, vowing a crushing response, a response that will be swift, decisive, and unforgettable. The Iranian military is mobilizing its forces, preparing for a potential counterattack. The rhetoric is escalating, and the threat of further violence looms large. Diplomacy failed. The years of negotiations, the countless meetings, the painstaking efforts to find common ground have all come to naught. The diplomatic channels are now silent, replaced by the roar of jet engines and the thunder of explosions. Sanctions, deals, and warnings all led to this moment, a culmination of years of mistrust, miscalculation, and failed diplomacy. The path to peace has been abandoned, replaced by the grim reality of armed conflict. A direct military confrontation between the US and Iran, a clash of ideologies, a battle for regional dominance, and a potential catalyst for a global war. The world holds its breath, bracing for the impact. The red line is crossed, the point of no return has been reached. The consequences will be felt for generations to come. The Middle East, already scarred by conflict, a region steeped in history and plagued by instability, is now the epicenter of a new and far more dangerous crisis. A crisis that threatens to engulf the entire region and beyond. The fragile balance of power has been shattered and the future is uncertain. The implications stretch worldwide, affecting every nation, every economy, and every individual on the planet. From gas prices soaring to unprecedented levels, impacting transportation, trade, and the cost of living for millions, to global security, as nations around the world heighten their alert levels and prepare for potential threats. The chain reaction has begun. One event triggers another, leading to a cascade of consequences that are impossible to predict. No one knows where this will end. The future is shrouded in uncertainty, and the world holds its breath, waiting to see what unfolds. The world is watching and waiting, with a mixture of fear, anxiety, and anticipation, for Iran's response, a response that will determine the course of history. The stakes have never been higher. The world stands on the precipice, teetering on the brink of a global conflict. The next few hours, the next few days, will determine the fate of nations and the future of humanity. The clock ticked past midnight, the world holding its breath. Operation Desert Mirage, a meticulously planned strike, was about to commence. The operation began precisely at 2 a.m. Tehran time, a moment chosen for maximum strategic advantage. The entire operation was designed for maximum surprise, a swift and decisive blow intended to neutralize Iran's nuclear capabilities before they could be fully realized. Every detail, from the timing to the weaponry, had been carefully considered and calibrated. The spearhead of the attack consisted of stealth jets, piercing the night sky undetected, alongside heavy bombers and a barrage of cruise missiles, all converging on their targets with deadly precision. These advanced weapon systems struck Iran's key nuclear sites, facilities that had been the subject of international concern and scrutiny for years. The aim was to dismantle the program to set it back years, if not decades. Natanz, a crucial uranium enrichment plant, Fordow, a deeply buried facility designed to withstand conventional attacks, Arak, a heavy water reactor with the potential to produce plutonium, and Isfahan, a research center with multiple nuclear reactors, all became targets in the crosshairs. To ensure the destruction of even the most fortified locations, bunker-busting bombs, designed to penetrate deep into the earth, targeted underground facilities, those subterranean complexes that housed critical components of the Iranian nuclear program. The objective was clear: to cripple Iran's nuclear ambitions in a single, devastating blow, to eliminate the immediate threat and buy time for diplomacy. In the aftermath, the Pentagon claims precision and minimal collateral damage, emphasizing the use of smart bombs and careful target selection. However, Iranian media paints a different picture, reporting civilian casualties and widespread chaos, alleging indiscriminate attacks and a disregard for human life. The fog of war is thick, the truth obscured by conflicting narratives and the inherent uncertainties of armed conflict. In this information battleground, truth and propaganda blur, making it difficult to discern the reality on the ground. Seeking to reassure a nervous public, the president addressed the nation, framing the strike as a reluctant necessity, a painful but unavoidable action taken in the interest of national security and global stability. The justification: to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, a scenario deemed unacceptable by the United States and its allies. But for millions, those words offer little comfort, failing to alleviate the fear and uncertainty that now grips the world. The world stares into the abyss of a new war, a conflict with potentially catastrophic consequences for the region and beyond. The world braces for what comes next, uncertain of the repercussions and the long-term implications of Operation Desert Mirage. The White House claims urgent intelligence Iran was weeks from assembling a nuclear weapon, having expelled inspectors and moved uranium to secret sites. Diplomacy, they argue, had failed. The JCPOA was dead, and Iran's proxies were escalating attacks across the region. The administration frames the strike as a last resort to enforce non-proliferation and restore deterrence. Critics demand evidence, fearing a repeat of past intelligence failures and warning that diplomacy is now impossible. The official answer, imminent threat, offers little solace to a world bracing for the fallout. The question of why now remains deeply contentious. The world is left to judge the justification as the crisis unfolds. The global response is swift, a wave of reactions echoing across continents and international bodies. The attack on Iran has triggered a cascade of diplomatic activity, condemnations, and expressions of deep concern from world leaders and organizations alike, and overwhelmingly negative. The international community is largely united in its disapproval, with many nations voicing strong opposition to the act and its potential consequences for global stability. The United Nations Security Council is immediately thrust into emergency sessions, grappling with the implications of this unprecedented event. Russia and China, key players on the world stage, condemn the attack as a violation of international law, emphasizing the importance of respecting national sovereignty and adhering to established norms of international conduct. They view the situation as a dangerous escalation that threatens to destabilize the region and beyond, calling for emergency UN action and vowing support for Iran, politically and diplomatically. They advocate for a peaceful resolution to the crisis through dialogue and negotiation, urging all parties to exercise restraint and avoid further escalation. China, a major Iranian oil buyer, sees its interests threatened, with potential disruptions to its energy supply and economic stability, and signals deeper ties with Tehran, solidifying their strategic partnership in the face of growing uncertainty. This alignment underscores the shifting geopolitical landscape and the emergence of new power dynamics. America's European allies express shock and anger, struggling to comprehend the rationale behind the attack and its potential ramifications for European security. Feeling sidelined and fearing for their own security, questioning the reliability of their alliances and the future of transatlantic relations. The lack of consultation prior to the attack has fueled resentment and mistrust. The NATO alliance is fractured, its unity tested by diverging interests and a crisis of confidence. At a moment of extreme tension, with the potential for miscalculation and unintended consequences looming large. The world watches with bated breath, hoping for de-escalation and a return to diplomacy. In the Middle East, US allies are silent but likely relieved, privately welcoming the weakening of Iran's regional influence, while publicly maintaining a cautious stance. While others fear being caught in the crossfire, recognizing the potential for the conflict to spill over into their own territories and destabilize the entire region. Iraq and Lebanon brace for proxy wars and further instability as various factions align themselves with opposing sides, exacerbating existing tensions and threatening to plunge the countries into renewed conflict. The world is more divided and more dangerous than ever, with the attack on Iran serving as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present threat of global conflict. The bombing may have shattered global non-proliferation efforts. By attacking an NPT signatory, the US sends a message: without nuclear weapons, you're vulnerable. Iran withdraws from the NPT, ending all international oversight and vowing to rebuild its program in secret. The nightmare Iran could now race for a bomb or transfer nuclear material to proxies. The world is flying blind, with no way to verify Iran's activities. The rules of the nuclear game have been violently rewritten. The risk of nuclear terrorism and proliferation has never been higher. Iran's promise of revenge is real. They could launch massive missile strikes on US bases and allies, triggering a regional war. Proxy groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis may attack Western interests worldwide, creating chaos far beyond the Middle East. Iran's cyber warriors could target critical infrastructure, causing blackouts or financial havoc in the US and Europe. The Strait of Hormuz, a choke point for global oil, could be closed, sending energy prices soaring and triggering a global recession. Iran's options are asymmetric, global, and deeply destabilizing. Retaliation is not a question of if, but how and how far it will go. Oil prices have surged over 30% overnight, with Brent crude topping $120 a barrel. Gasoline prices are set to spike, straining family budgets and businesses worldwide. Stock markets are plunging, airlines are in freefall, and global supply chains face chaos. The economic shock threatens a fragile recovery, fueling inflation and risking a global recession. Central banks face impossible choices as the cost of living spirals. For ordinary people, expect higher prices for everything: gas, groceries, heating, and more. The economic shockwave is already at your doorstep. The attack has redrawn the map of global travel and security. Airspace over Iran and the Gulf is now a no-fly zone, causing flight cancellations and chaos for millions. Security is heightened everywhere: airports, borders, public spaces, amid fears of Iranian retaliation. Business, tourism, and cultural exchange grind to a halt as companies and travelers avoid the region. The era of easy global movement is over, replaced by fear and suspicion. Nations turn inward, and the world feels smaller, more divided, and more dangerous. The freedom to travel and connect is now at risk. This crisis is no longer distant. It's reshaping daily life everywhere. Rising fuel and grocery prices, volatile investments, and heightened security are now realities for all. The threat of retaliation means increased vigilance and disruptions to daily routines. Stay informed, seek reliable news, and be wary of misinformation as both sides push their narratives. The next 48 hours are critical. Watch for Iran's response, global market reactions, and any diplomatic off-ramps. The world has changed overnight, and the stakes could not be higher. Adapt to this new reality with caution and awareness. The future is uncertain, and every decision now matters.